Hi everyone. We're going to start looking at words. In this interview, we'll start with the word insight. Insight within the context of self as one of the primary self senses. Like you have your physical senses, insight becomes one of the self senses that serve as a practical support and assistance tool that you develop through and as a process of walking, writing, and especially self-forgiveness. Self is a development, meaning to birth ourselves is a practical process. What is and should be clear is that no one and nothing is going to come and save us through a miracle. If we want to change ourselves, this world, for the betterment of ourselves and this world, we ourselves have got to do it, and it is an actual practical physical doing. You're more than welcome to wait for yourself, but you will be brought to that one moment where you got to make a decision between life and death. Making the decision and giving into the mind or death is easy, but the consequences is extreme. Making the decision for life and walking the practical process of birthing life is not and will not be easy. And it is difficult and hard at times because you're walking for yourself and for all. But the moment of insight that opens the windows of opportunities to self-realization, each such moment building and expanding on self-living through and as the physical and experiencing self-expressions that one could not have conceived possible to be lived or experienced by self, makes this process so the more worth it, because you know what you're walking for and as self as all, and the process as a whole strengthens you as a person in all spheres of self and life to take on and walk through whatever comes, to bring an end to abuse and suffering within and without, and manifest a reality through living that is in fact worth living in, where death will be no more and life remain. So within this process that we walk that has become our living decision, we assist and support ourselves through and as words. One of the primary forms through which we express words as ourselves is in and as our writing and speaking. And within that support and assistance of walking with and as words become us as we start shaping, changing, and manifesting ourselves as living words that stand within the principle of and as equality and oneness. So here, let's look at the design of words through the mind as it currently exists and how to practically utilize words as living tools in assisting and supporting the practical living of self in and as the physical. And we'll start with the word insight. Within the mind, the design of the word insight exists as follows: I, N, and then sight. The I, representing the mind or ego, the main personality self live and exist as. The N represents manifestation, and then sight represents seeing. So in terms of how the individual letters as symbols are interwoven within the networks of the mind as strands of knowledge and information of and as energy to create definitions of words in support of the mind and ego and personality is as follows. Insight, as the word through the mind, exists within and as the following context as resonant impression. Seeing through and from within the manifested I, the sight of the mind's eye. As the N that represents manifestation stand as the manifestation as mind. So insight within the definition of how it exists and is utilized and accepted, its source actually exists within the ego personality of mind, through and as which one see into a particular specific something or someone or point. So insight as it currently exists within the mind and this world, thus, is not some great realization or greatness itself. It's simply an emergence from within the I as ego of self, of mind. And so when one offer, give, or have insight, you're actually seeing from within your own ego personality. So how the word insight is interconnected into personality behavior in relation to its function or purpose within, for, and of the mind through one's ego personality is as follows. Its primary function is the affirmation of one's own already existent personality-defined knowledge and information, wherein one would participate in the insight construct within the ego dimension of elevating oneself resonantly in a moment, which primarily manifests within enduring conversation with others. So insight has become the design of my sight, as the I sight, as ego sight, as how the mind as I, as ego personality, see or view a point or something and or someone within, from, and through the backdrop of knowledge and information of mind, formulated, copied, and or duplicated from or of interpretations of others and one's own reality as mind. So here another example of how we've come to use and abuse words for the benefit of and as ourselves as mind within the design manifestation of and as ego for the momentary high of and as energy which we've accepted and allowed ourselves to limit ourselves into and as, that we have to diminish ourselves to such futile actions of elevating our ego to feel good and just about who and how we are. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, our accepted and allowed internal and external existence that is such a fuck up at the moment. So this is one of the ways which we utilize the word insight through our mind as ego personality within the conscious mind domain with others to give ourselves the energy boost and validate our own existence. Obviously, one has to be really attentive in picking up such moments, in being physically here and observing one's internal backchat. Because what's fascinating also about this design is that you have to gather the points within yourself in relation to the conversations happening within that particular specific moment, calculate the insights of the others' minds or of other people's comments or remarks or discussions, and so work out what to say and how to sound most insightful in grabbing the attention of the moment and pull everyone towards you pulling everyone towards you to, in that moment, shine in the limelight. And so insight becomes a game of competition between egos in relation to views, opinions, perceptions, ideas, beliefs about or of whatever is being discussed in a particular specific moment. This here indicating and showing why and how insight within and as this world, actual real insight that consider common sense. Common sense is another sense of self that do not yet exist. In changing, assisting, and supporting of self and all in this world of existence, equal and one, do in fact not yet exist. Because insight is the competition of egos, even in the face of presenting a solution for self and this world, ending all the suffering and abuse. People will fight and argue for the limitations of energy as ego, to validate their existence of mind, and so attempt and try and compete with those standing up for and participating in living the principle that'll change self and this world, in how such people that try and fight and compete present their insights as their views, opinions, perceptions, ideas, and beliefs, when all they're in fact always doing is fighting and competing within and for their own mind, their own limitations. So insight, as with self, is a point that develops. As self develops through and as the process of self-realization, self-realizing self here. Within this, insight manifests as insight. Insight, which in sound manifests resonance, stand as the support and assistance tool of seeing in being here, seeing here, seeing as and with, equal to and one what is here. Thus, having the ability to expand self within a moment in relation to a point, something, or someone, looking beyond what is presented at face value, so to speak, as the knowledge and information presented, and in that, observing self within a point, within the context of oneself, process, and equality and oneness. So, one do not only assess or look at a point, something, or someone within the context of competition and energy, but look at it within the context of self, one's process, and equality and oneness, within the perspective of looking at who self is within a point, or towards something and someone. And in that, assist and support oneself within one's process of self-realization. So insight becomes a point with as an of self, as in support and assistance for and as self and self process for self and for all. Insight doesn't just happen miraculously. As I said, it develops equal to and one with how and as self develop, because you have to peel through the layers of energy and find you within and between all the personalities, which is walking through within and as the process of unifying self here in breath, in the physical, as you bring all parts of self back together again. So as you face your ego through writing and self-forgiveness, which is facing your mind, you start penetrating the manifested structures of and as the systems of ego, as mind, as personalities, and in and during that process, a clarity emerges, a deeper seeing into and as self-intimacy develop, and within and during that process, insight emerges, an inner seeing into and as and with self, in the practical support and assistance with and as the process of establishing self here, equal and one, in, as, and with the physical. So with insight, you'll be able to start seeing through the layers of energy and seeing through the personality and ego, and start gaining perspective, a real contextual perspective of self, in the totality of who self is in the moment, within a point, something, or someone. And so insight is transformed into and as a point that becomes of practical support and assistance to and as one's process of walking self-equality and oneness here. So be aware of the moments of competing with one's own mind, within one's own mind, and fighting for one's own limitations, and elevating oneself through the eyesight as the personality possession of energy. And make the decision to live, to develop self into a living being through the physical, for self and for all their self. And in that, gain the gift of insight, of seeing through and past the bullshit into and as the real shit, to get to the reality of what is here that requires sorting out and changing. Thanks.